Hello, everyone. Thank you for another edition of Closing the First Deal. Today we have the special guest, Caesar Abreu, who's joining us live from Providence. And he's basically another investor who's been investing in real estate. He also has his side business where he does home renovations and he has his own YouTube channel. So make sure you guys check that all out. We'll have all the information popping up here. So with that being said, let's have Mr. Dr. Gavin take it away.
Welcome, Caesar. Thank you for joining us.
No
So, what
problem.
started you on your real estate journey? How did you embark upon it? How did you go about closing your first deal? Where would you want to start us off?
Yeah, so honestly, me and my wife a couple years ago, we bought at the end of 2021. So literally right before the spike when COVID hit and everything got crazy. We were living at my parents' house for a couple years, saving a bunch of money as much as we could. And we were about to have, actually, we had our son. Um, and we just wanted like our own space. Like we stayed a little bit after that, but we were just looking for a house. It took us a year to find our first deal, but literally, like we knew we wanted to move out like once we had our son. So that was kind of like the game plan to find something. And we pretty much bought at the end of 2021.
So, what was that process like? Like you just summarized that pretty fast. But walk us through it. Did you decide to go about purchasing a house in 1 year? Was it more like your wife and yourself, or even your family contributing? Was it more like you saying, you know what, I want to do this for my family? How long did it take? What was the process?
So once we knew we were having Eli, like we kind of knew we wanted to get into real estate. And I always enjoyed it. And I had a few friends who had like multi-families or just like any type of real estate, like in my early 20s. So like I kind of learned a lot from them. So when we were looking for a home, we were kind of just like that. That summer or that year, we probably looked through maybe like 15 homes before like we finally found the one because like I said, it took a year, but we just couldn't find one to get into. Like we were getting outbid. Maybe we weren't putting enough money down, but like we just honestly didn't give up. And like once we found it, we didn't get it right away because they had it listed for like $350,000. But we waited a little bit. Then they finally lowered it down to 325, and we put in a bid for 320, and that's how we ended up getting it. But we knew we wanted a multifamily because we knew we wanted to at least rent out 2 floors and then live in the third floor or whatever floor, and have that pay the mortgage. So that was kind of like our route and our thinking to get into like real estate from the beginning.
What made you focus on solely multifamily? I'm a proponent of such myself, but it seems like you had tunnel vision and you weren't going to settle for anything less.
Yeah, pretty much. So I love that my wife was on board. So a lot of people hate multifamilies because they don't want to be a landlord, right? A lot of people hear the horror stories where like their tenants are horrible and all that stuff. But to be honest, that never scared me away because as long as you do the best you can to vet your tenant, I think you can gauge how that person is and like you can kind of give them a shot. And obviously you do the background checks and all the other stuff, but like you just try to gauge it as best as you can. And if you end up with a bad one, it is what it is. Like it, but like I said, that never deterred me from getting into multifamily. So that's what I really wanted to do because I always loved not having to pay for a mortgage. Like when someone told me that, like that's one of the biggest expenses that people have, when they have a job, right? Your car payment, your mortgage, and all that. So if I could have had my mortgage paid for, like that was already a big expense that I didn't have to account for when I'm getting paid. So that was really much what our thought process was. And we just didn't settle for anything less. And once we found the right one, we made the deal happen.
That's dope. That's dope. And it's smart because a lot of people don't do that. Some people just want like their dream home and then they realize like the costs that are associated with having a single family that they wish they could, rent out the rooms or something. So you mentioned that you bought your house at it was originally listed at 350 and then they dropped it to 325. So did you guys had like insight knowledge that it was about to be dropped, or were you guys just like it was on the list of houses you were looking at and you just so happened to catch that it dropped?
Yeah, so we kind of kept our eye on that one because when we looked at it for 350, we knew it needed a lot of work. And when, the little spreadsheet that I had with everything that I needed to fix, it didn't make sense to go in at 350 with everything that had to be fixed because to be honest, I renovated the whole second floor and third floor myself, and it took me a year. So all of 2022, I spent fixing the third floor. We moved in. Then all of 2023, I spent fixing the second floor. Um, so once it dropped, I was like, all right, you know what? We could do 325. It makes a little bit more sense. Like, it's $25,000 less that now we can work with. And we put in a bid, I believe, at 320, and they accepted it. And to be honest, not a lot of people bid on it. It was maybe like me and one other person because like it just needed a lot of work. And like you said, a lot of people just want that home to move in. They just want it to be ready and just, kind of go from there. But when you do that, you're spending a lot more money up front sometimes. So, we got the best deal that we could. And, we took it, they accepted the offer and we closed, 30 days later.
I'm surprised that you were able to find the house, a triplex, at that price. So as you were saying it, I was wondering how, because I'm familiar with the market, and I know during that time it was highly competitive. Can you elaborate on why you were willing to jump into something where you had to build the sweat equity? And did you know what you was getting yourself into? Did you get into the trade before even becoming an investor? How were you so confident?
Man, so I knew nothing about real estate. I knew nothing about like home renovations, absolutely nothing. Like I can pick up a hammer and do little things around the house, but if you were gonna tell me that I was gonna go in there and renovate 2 floors by myself in 2 years, absolutely, I would have never believed you. But when I bought it, my thought process was, all right, like it needs this type of work. Like I thought we were gonna move in like 3 months, 4 months tops, but I didn't know that a lot of stuff took time. And also, I didn't know it needed a lot more work than what we thought it did. Because obviously, you take down walls, you find out, there's other problems, then there's plumbing problems. So there was just a lot more stuff that we found. And I wish we had offered a lot less. Because to be honest, I'm pretty sure she would have took 300,000 and we would have been better off that way. But yeah, man, I knew absolutely nothing, but I was just excited. Like I knew we were just like finally gonna have that three family that we always talked about. And I had the vision, which is crazy. Like once I was walking the floors, I can see what I wanted to like how I wanted it to look. And I can, picture just someone actually living here or us living here. And we kind of just made that vision come true. Um, to elaborate a little bit more on that, once we did get it, I learned everything through YouTube. So like literally YouTube University is what I called it. I'd be on there every day. Just whatever project I wanted to do, I would look it up a video. I'd watch it maybe multiple times and then I go do it. So I did that pretty much for the first year on the third floor. And by the time I got to the second floor, I rarely looked at videos anymore. I knew how to do, 90% of the work.
That is so dope. YouTube University. Shout out to you too. Who is
You can find
literally
everything on there.
changing lives out there. Like the fact that you had the confidence to go look at the videos and still be able to do it. A lot of people get scared of that stuff. Like they just look at it and they see how big of a project it is and they just run away. But it sounds like you literally took it step by step and you broke it down to small sections that you could consume the content and then execute, consume, execute, consume, execute. So along the way, did you ask for help from anyone? Did you have anyone come in and like assist you with certain things?
So I hired, excuse me, I hired two contractors and I fired both because they just didn't
Mm.
do they just didn't do the work that like the quality of work that I would have wanted just wasn't there. And some of the things they did wrong. And it was probably my fault because I didn't do maybe enough due diligence or like ask enough questions or referrals of the work that they've done. So that could have been partially on me. But I just wanted a little bit of a break. I wanted to see if someone else could just handle something while we were like in vacation mode a little bit. We were kind of like in and out. So that's like the downfall of that. So it set me back a couple months too because then I had to go in there and refix what they messed up, kind of thing. So that was that. But also, like you said, like I was nervous and scared, like to go in there and do all the work because I never did it before. But like you said, if you take it kind of step by step, room by room, it kind of builds your confidence because all right, cool, like I finished this bedroom, like let's go tackle this now, and then you kind of just keep going from there, and then you build up the confidence to finally just kind of do it. I also thought too, like if I messed it up, I can just hire someone to fix it. But what I also didn't know is how expensive it can be to renovate a home because the contractor prices were insane. And that's what led me to do it myself, because for something so simple, I remember to have like 4 walls in this bedroom that I'm sitting in to get skim coated because it was like old horsehair plaster and I just wanted it to look a lot smoother. Someone was charging $1,500, and I'm like, man, the materials alone cost me like $50, and like a trial maybe like $12, and then it's pretty much the time after that. But it was crazy that someone was charging that much money for labor when I can just go buy the stuff myself and just spend the time to do it myself. So
So you
it's wild.
learning cheat code, like they really, I guess they're getting people for their knowledge and the fact that their know-how, that's what you're paying for. The fact that they have the expertise, they've done it before, not necessarily the materials. Um,
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, there's definitely a time and a place for the professionals. Like I give, props to anyone that does that type of work, that works outside of the rules like that. Like I know the value and all of that stuff, but like if I feel like I can just do it myself and make it as close as perfect as possible, great. Because I'm not gonna go in there and like half-ass it kind of thing. I'm gonna try to do the best that I can, but sometimes there's certain things that I just can't do that I have to hire out, and that's okay. But as long as like if I can give it a go and try to fix it, I would.
Holly, how did you both prepare for and weather the financial storm? Like closing on the house, you had to prepare for that, and then 2 years worth of renovations.
Yeah, so we like living at my parents' house was like a big blessing because like my mom, like we're Dominican, so like Spanish moms, like if you guys know, like they want you in the house for as long as you want, like they wouldn't even kick you out. So we stayed there, saved money. So every time we both got paid, we try to put a big chunk away because we knew that we had a down payment coming whenever we found the home. I want to say we saved up about 20 grand. It might have been like 15 to 20 grand because if anyone doesn't know, like when you go buy a house, the bank wants to see, I believe it was like 3 to 6 months of reserves, like in the bank just sitting there, because like if something were to happen, you were to get fired, they want to know that their loan is going to get paid on. So we had to make sure we had that type of money just sitting on the side. But we also had a great loan officer. So that's very important to find someone that you enjoy working with and that knows what they're doing, because he walked me through every step of the way. He was like, hey, this is what we're going to do here. This is what I need. And then when it came down to like running the numbers, he said, hey, look, you're getting it at this house. It costs 320,000. This is your down payment. This is that. So we knew what we had to save for and what to put aside and how much to have in reserves to go ahead and close the deal. It was a little rocky. I think towards the end, I remember he was dealing with a new lender. So they asked for a bunch of weird things that he had never seen before. Like also like me and my wife had separate savings account at the time, and she had transferred the money to my account because that's what was going to be used to pay for the down payment. And then they were like, hey, we can't use this money because we don't know where it's coming from. But literally it was my wife's account. It had her last name in mine, but they're like, hey, we need a note saying it was a gift from your wife to you and all that stuff. So little things like that. But again, he walked us through everything, like what we needed, and we kind of gave it to him, and we were still able to close, which was pretty cool.
Yeah, so okay, so that was the first half of the question. What about the second half? The renovations. I was
Go ahead.
expecting you to get tenants, right?
Yep.
And usually when somebody closes on a house that need renovations, you can close with a FHA 203K loan, which is a construction loan attached to it. So I was wondering if you took out a loan to cover the materials and the labor, or if you just did that out of pocket, and then how were you able to cover expenses and the mortgage?
Yeah, so we were able to do FHA. We didn't have to do the construction loan because it was livable once we bought it. But to be honest, like I wouldn't have lived in it the way that I saw it. Like the bathroom had mold and like everything was just run down. It hadn't been fixed in like 30, 40 years. So we knew we had to tear it down, but at least the bank saw it as like it's livable, and they was gonna give us the loan. It came with tenants on the first floor and they still live there now. And honestly, they've been real cool. So that helped already from the beginning because it covered half of the mortgage. My mortgage is $2,200. They paid me, I think it was like $1,300. So that already, out of pocket for us, we only had to come out, $700 to $800 or whatever it is. So that was great. A lot of people look at it like I lost money over the 2 years because I'm paying out of pocket. But honestly, I'm like, I looked at it as I was paying myself to learn, because I learned everything that I did the last 2 years. So like it was kind of like an investment in myself. And yes, I'm spending that money, but also people have rent are spending a lot more money than $700, $800 a month. You know, some people's mortgages or rent are like $1,800 to $1,700 now. So I wasn't worried about that. But we had money left over. I can't remember how much we did, but that money left over after closing is what got us through the third floor. And to get through the second floor, it didn't need much work, but I did have to take out another small loan. I forgot who I used, to be honest, but it might have been like $10,000 to $15,000 that I took out, and then that helped me get through the second loan, to the second floor.
So, something you said is a lot of people think you lost because you're carrying the expense of the mortgage. No, you
Hmm.
didn't. No, you didn't. You and I both know now when you're looking at the price of the house and how much it appreciated, you were winning
Yeah.
because if anything, you gained interest on the money that you were paying off the mortgage with. In addition to that, um, all of that money came out of your pocket and you were renovating, improving your property. So you could get that in back in tax deductions as well. So it's probably a lot of people who are giving you the opinion, although they've never owned a house or an investment property and they don't play the tax game. So forget about those people. Those are naysayers. And we don't listen to the audience when we're in the ballpark. We're focused on winning the game. So kudos to you
Yeah, for
and
sure, man.
shout out to your wife for being a part of your journey.
Yeah, man. I'm a little side note. We started dating back in 2011, so we've been together 13 years now. We got married in 2017, 2018, but to be together for that long, man, at least I look at it as a small or big accomplishment, because like a lot of people today, you know, they don't last that long, or some people that, I don't know, you know what I'm trying to say, right? I see my parents too, like as a big example, man. They've been married 41 years now. I think it was September 1st. So like
41
that's
years.
crazy. Yeah.
That is
They've been
crazy.
together for a long time.
That is
So
awesome. And your parents are so awesome. Like, yeah, your whole family, your wife, everyone. No, that's cool. So next question. So do you intend on purchasing like additional property in the future? And what role has this current property play for future investments?
yeah, we want to keep going, to be honest. Like we've been trying to find anything that we can get into. We've been looking at two families, three families. And a big part of that was because I don't mind working. Like I'm in IT, and you know, I enjoy what I do, but I also realize that I don't get to spend as much time with like my son or go on vacation as much, because like we're always working, right? So a big part for me is to keep going, because if we can get, you know, 10 to 15 houses, whether it be multifamily, single families, or whatever is going to bring in that cash flow, like as long as the money's there that supplements what we're making at our jobs, like eventually we can just leave that and enjoy life a little bit better, right? I don't have to go to work on someone else's time. I'm not building someone else's company. Like we can just get up and go whenever we want. Like that kind of lifestyle is what I've always wanted to do. So when we figured real estate was going to be that path, we're trying to do everything we can to get there. And this house specifically is going to play a big part into it, because like I said, we bought it for 320,000, but to be honest, I'm pretty sure it's worth like 500,000, maybe 550. Or like he's saying 6,000. I'll take it, because so here's another tip for you guys: to anyone that lives in Woonsocket, which is where I live currently. There, the city of Woonsocket is doing, it's like a lead program, or like lead, I forgot what they call it, but if your house was built before 1978, you can go ahead and apply for this loan. And what they'll do is they'll come out and assess your home. They'll figure out what has lead, and then they'll remedy it with a forgivable loan. So for me, right, what they ended up finding out was I needed some work done on the second floor and on the first floor that was going to be covered. And then also my stairway from the first floor to the third floor in the common area, they paid in everything. They put new stair treads. They put new flooring down. And then also in my front common area, they did the same thing, new flooring, painting. So, and then all of my windows, they took out all of the old siding that was on the windows. I forget what they call it, but that had lead in it, and then they wrapped it with aluminum. So pretty much it was like 20 grand worth of work that I didn't have to pay for. The only thing is that you can't sell your home prior to 5 years. So you have to have it for 5 years, and then that loan is forgiven. for me, like I'm not planning on selling it anyway. So it was a win-win because now it saved me money that I was gonna have to pay later on anyway. But the city took care of it, 20 grand completely covered from them. And like now I'm pretty sure my house is worth probably that 600,000 because it looks 10 times better. Like the hallway looks great. We got to pick the colors. The new flooring is great. Like they put in a new door too because the old one was kind of like messed up. So it was a great program that I went through.
That's super awesome. So how did you even find out about the program? Like who told you about it?
So the company that I work for IT, it's pretty much like a managed service provider, and we manage 160 clients between here, Rhode Island, and Connecticut. And one of the clients is like the city of Woonsocket. So I'm there usually like once or twice a week, and I got cool with everyone. And one day I was walking by, and one of the ladies that work in the LEP program, she was like, "Hey, do you know about this?" Like, because we were kind of cool. And I was like, "No, I don't." And she kind of ran me through everything, and I was like, "Hey, you sure I don't have to pay for anything?" She's like, "No, just sign up. We'll have the person come out, do the assessment, and then they'll get back to you." So it did take a little bit though. I did the assessment back in March, and then they told me everything that had led and what they were going to fix. And then obviously everything was a little bit backlog because a lot of people have been doing it. So they just did the work last week. So they started last week. They're going to wrap up pretty much tomorrow. So it did take a little bit of time, but that's how I heard about it.
That's nice. That's what's
Yeah.
up. Talking about networking, connections, and just being friendly and having conversations with people gets you to find knowledge that you probably wouldn't have come across on the internet unless they did really good job of like promoting that information. So I'm starting to find that half the battle is just knowing what's out there because there are a lot of programs out there. People just don't know how to access them or get information. So that's dope. Thank you for sharing for sure. Um, so what does generational wealth mean to you? And what role has it played in your life?
Um, Generational wealth, at least to me, is like once I had my son, a lot of things changed, right? Like you look, at least for me, I looked at a lot differently because I just wanted to provide as much as I can for him growing up. And I grew up a little bit differently. Like I wasn't poor, but I remember days where like we didn't have light and we didn't have, heat or water. Like we were heating up the water on the stove and taking a shower with that. So like we had tough times growing up, but like my parents did everything they could to give me and my brother the life that we live today. And like they've been amazing to be honest. So like even if they had to give us something to sacrifice something for the house or like for them, like they did it. So I look up to that because I want to do the same for my son, right? I want to be able to give him and not spoil him or like not for him to be a brat growing up, but like teach him the right values, but to be there and give him everything. So if I can build this real estate empire and maybe hand it down to him for him to take over when I leave, and then maybe for him to pass it down to his kids, that would be great. And I don't know if he's gonna want that path, to be honest. Maybe he doesn't, but I want to build it now for us because that's just the goal that I have in mind. And if he wants to take that over, great. If not, then I sell everything off and figure it out at that point. But for me, like that's kind of important because I see a lot of kids today, man, like graduating with so much money in debt and having to go live back at home. And it's a different time, right? Our parents were like that. Like everyone had their homes, everyone had that, I guess, American dream, you can call it. But now today is so crazy, man. Everything's so expensive. And to try to buy a house when you're like 21, 22, and you're thinking like, man, it's $500,000, and like, and they don't have a great job coming out of school, how are they going to pay for that, right? So I just want to leave something for him where he doesn't have to worry about that. And if he wants to take it, by all means, it's there for him.
So what exactly do your future real estate goals look like?
So once this lead stuff is done at my house, I want to get it like reassessed to see how much it's actually worth because my plan is to maybe do a HELOC and then use part of that money to as a down payment for another home and kind of keep going from there. I so when I say HELOC too, I don't know if a lot of people, it's like a home equity line of credit. Um, it's great for like short term, but you don't really want to have that for long term because like that interest rate is like a variable interest rate, so it's always changing and your payment can always change. For me, I would probably use it to flip a single family because I can just take my money out, put it into this home, flip it, and then pay off the HELOC and then keep the profit from that. But the profit from that, I would probably put it aside to go ahead and try to find another 2 or 3 family home. If the HELOC makes sense to buy a 2 or 3 family home, then I would definitely do that. But I know this house is setting me up to go buy my next home because we have a little bit of money saved up still, but I don't know how much the down payment for the next home is going to be until we find one. But realistically, by the end of this year, maybe like before summertime, if we can get into one more, that'd be ideal to kind of like at least set us up to have at least 2 by next year, like 2 more by next year.
I love it. I love it. You had that thought out, like with the whole HELOC. You did your research. I could tell.
I've been because I've been struggling to figure out how to get it. So I can either so originally my plan. I don't know if anyone's familiar with this podcast called Bigger Pockets.
Yeah.
David Green is like one of the guys that I listened to religiously on there for the last year, like him and Rob. And they always talk about the Burma.
He started his own channel. He's not with them anymore.
I know he did. Yeah, I was kind of excited because now he kind of can like do his own thing. He talked about like him being a little bit restricted and stuff. So it's cool to see where he's gonna take that. But they always talk about the burn method, right? You go in there, you buy it, you renovate it, and then like at the end, once you're done, you can refinance it and then take your money out that you spent and the equity, and the profit, and then you still have that home. But I can't do that because my interest rate is at 3% right now for this house. It's 3 or 3.5%. So if I refinance, I'm gonna get a 6 or 7% interest rate, and I don't know if it would make sense to do that. So that's why I was thinking HELOC because I'm still keeping my interest rate. Now I'm just using the equity from the home to go buy another one. I'm still gonna have obviously another payment like the HELOC payment and then the new mortgage from the new house, but that's probably better than the mortgage that I would have had if I would have refinanced.
Yeah, I definitely wouldn't refinance because that 3.5%, that's beautiful. That's nice.
Yeah,
Um,
so we're trying to keep that for as long as we can for sure.
Yeah, you sound like you had the right idea, right? If you pull, let's say, $100,000 out on that HELOC, you now have to pay the
Hmm.
interest back. So what you could do is what you said, go find a house to renovate and flip, but you want to keep it
Hmm.
under that $100,000 threshold because you don't want to add on another expense unless it's really, really worth it. That's because it becomes too risky. Now you're not playing with play money. Now you're playing with your livelihood, where your family stays, and that could really set you back. So it's good that you're not trying to be too aggressive, and at least you're doing your homework with your research and preparing yourself.
Yeah, for sure. That's one thing that still scares me a little bit, right? If I took out a certain amount and like something goes wrong on that flip or something, and then now like where do I stand at that point? But um I'm like you said, I'm just trying to learn as much as I can before I actually do it. And I'm not if let's say my HELOC is 250,000, I'm not gonna be stupid and go use that 250,000 on something else. I'm gonna use a small portion of that and kind of figure it out. But I can also probably use the hard money lender, right? Maybe figure something out where I only have to put 10 or 20 grand down and maybe they cover the rest, or maybe they cover everything and I just go in there and fix it. So like there's a bunch of different ways out there. But once I find something and figure that out, I think I'll know where to go.
Gavin,
As
what were
long,
you trying to say?
as
Yeah,
long
you
as
were
you're willing
muted.
to go outside of the market, right? Our immediate market, because we're both in the New England area. Um,
Hmm.
a lot of these techniques that you and I both learned from YouTube University, because that's exactly how I learned as well. All I had to
Yeah.
do was spend the time and dedicate myself to learning, just like you did, you have. But I'm just like thinking, man, in this climate, first and foremost, that 3.5% down, you don't want to touch that. You don't want to play with that at all because you're at the point where you're growing at a faster rate than inflation. So you want to leave that alone. And a common mistake newbies make, including myself, is thinking that we should refinance the home that we're currently living in, when the better approach would be sit tight, do what you're doing already. The same amount of years it took for you and your wife to save to put down on the property you have now, it's not going to take as long to find an investment property. And as long as you're saving, something's going to come up. As long as you're preparing yourself, just like with your first house, this
Hmm.
triplex, you're going to find another deal. I would stay away from hard money lenders because right now the interest rates are hovering around just north of 6%, really. Like people are getting excited because it's hitting 5.8, but let's be real. That's only if you have excellent credit, and the mortgage brokers are going to find a way to add a couple of points on that. So you're not going to finish with that 5.8. And when you're going for hard money lenders, it's going to be about 3% higher plus additional points. So it gets very risky, and you don't want to tie up hard money lenders and possibly leveraging or having anything to do with personal property. I'd stay away from hard money lenders in this climate right now. I think that keeping that idea, being aware of the strategies, continuing to educate yourself and positioning yourself will provide you for that moment when a hard money lender will help you out. It'll benefit you, right? So, like for instance, if you're looking and then because you have the skill set of renovating on your own, right? So if you ended up finding something in New Hampshire, Maine, probably not going to happen because those markets are expensive. But let's just say like a cottage for $70,000 and you know it's probably worth 150, 180, you could put in the work on your own. But you and your lady could probably save that in 3 years and then buy it straight cash. And then that's when the Bird method works. It only works really when you buy something straight cash, because then you get to pull all of your money out and then it's just residual income, infinite returns from there.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
That was dope, guys. That was dope. I learned something today. So that's awesome. So I guess what advice would you give to your 15-year-old self?
To my 15-year-old self, man, I tell him to save a lot more money than spend it, because I knew, man, growing up, like as a teenager, like even in my early 20s, man, we were going out having fun. Like I'm spending it on stupid stuff. And if I would have learned about real estate back then, or just about investing, or just anything at all that I know now, I wish I would have saved more money back then, because I think I would have had a couple houses by now, right? Or I would have owned a house like when I was 21, maybe even earlier than that, because like that was just, I just didn't have the money back then. Like I always knew I wanted one, and I never really took it serious till like my late 20s to really get this house and find out how to do all that other stuff. But the advice I would definitely give him was, go out there, save a little bit more money, like be wiser with it and not just blow it on stupid things. So
And now now that you said your 15-year-old self, what advice would you give to someone like coming out of college? Would the advice change or would it stay the same?
no, to be honest, I think if they're looking to get into real estate, I think they should do the same, because you're gonna need money regardless, right? You're gonna need it for the down payment. You might need it for some renovations, and it's better to be able to put more down, because that, like, it just helps you a little bit more in the long run, because your mortgage would be a little bit cheaper, but also like you have those reserves to now invest if you do want to go get something else, or like you're not, if your water break, like not your water break, if your water heater breaks, or you have like a crazy expense in your home, you're not struggling or trying to go take out a loan to fix that. Because let's say if you spent all your money on a house and like you're barely making the mortgage payment, if something breaks and you have a crazy expense, now what? A lot of people don't account for that stuff. They think, once they get the house, they're good to go. But I've learned that, man, I had a crazy leak in my basement last week. I wasn't expecting, like, the stack that leads out to the sewer into the street like disconnected from that, and I had sewage stuff everywhere in the basement. And the only reason I knew is because in the bathroom up here, my wife smells something. She's like, "Yo, why does it smell like that?" And sometimes we'll smell stuff in the basement because it rises up. But it was really bad that day, and I went to go check, and it was just stuff everywhere. And that wasn't an expense I was expecting to have. So it was $1,400 later. And thank God that I'm able to still save money from the money that I'm getting from my tenants now, that it covers the mortgage, but a part of that I put aside. But I wasn't really too worried about it because we knew we had the money to fix it, because that was something that I couldn't fix. So yeah, if they could definitely, save some money, maybe even find a way to work through college, right? Pay off their student loans, maybe work a job or two if they can. David Green was another great example, right? In college, he, I believe, was not bar. It was either bartending or he was doing some type of waitress job, and all the tips he had, he was saving up, and he paid. You know, he graduated with college with no debt, like, and then he had, I think it was almost 100 grand saved up, and started investing, and he was good to go. So the more money you have early on, the better off you are to keep going.
That's good. That's good. Now, looking to your future self, I want you to use this video as something that you can look back to on in the future. So
Mhm.
when you turn like, I don't know, 40, 50 years old, what do you want to have accomplished by that age? Like, what's your goal?
Man, I'm 34 now, so that's kind of like around the corner. By 40 years old, for sure, I would love to not be working at that time. I would love to have, maybe, 5 to 10 homes. If I can do, nah, maybe that's a little much. I'd say like 5 or 6, right? Because if you didn't know, right, you can get a house every single year, um, with like a FHA loan, as long as you intend to move into that home after a year, because FHA requires you to live into a home for a year, but then after that you can move out. So if you go and buy another primary residence, you can use that FHA loan again because it's 3.5% down, which is better than 20%, which would require you if you were buying an investment property, right? So 3.5 to get into something else, move into it, fix it, do whatever you're gonna do, then rent it out, and then do it again, right? Go move into another home and do it. So like if I'm 34 now, and for by the time I'm 40, that'll be 6 years. So like if I can do a house a year from now to then, I think that'd be a great spot for me to be in. And then by 50, I don't even know, but I just know I don't want to be working at all. I want to be in vacation mode.
I feel you. I feel you. Working on other projects. That's what's up. Those are good
Yeah.
goals. I feel like you can accomplish it. You already have the mindset for it. You're currently saving the money, doing the research so that you can accomplish those goals. So I hope people that are watching it get value, take some nugget, at least one, drop it in the comments what you've learned. Gavin, do you have any other questions before we close it out?
A renovation company. Did you want to elaborate a bit on more on that?
Oh yeah. So the reason I wanted to do that was because since I've been doing all the work here in this house the last 2 years, and with the people that I hired that weren't great, I was like, man, if these guys are getting hired and they're doing this type of work, like there's gotta be, like, I can do this, and at least get some type of clients and provide better work and better customer service, right? So that was my intention of going into it. So the name of my company is called Ce.Precision Painting. um a lot of the stuff that I do, like, I just enjoyed painting when I renovated the house, so like that's why I named it that. But I also do like home renovation, right? So depending on what someone wants me to do when I'm at their home, and if I'm able to do it, I'll definitely go ahead and quote them on that. But I named it after like my initial and my son's initial, so Caesar and Elias. And so yeah, I've been 2 months in business, and I already had a couple like jobs, which is great. A lot of my friends also took me up on it, and I went over there and did some work for them, and they loved it. So I've been just trying to network as much as I can to keep growing. But because honestly, even if, let's say, this grows a lot faster than my real estate, at least I can do this full time, leave my job currently, and then still be in the real estate field and save money and kind of just invest in that world. But now I'm also like renovating my own projects and like maybe hiring out certain things and stuff like that. So um, on Instagram is ce.precision painting. TikTok, on TikTok, it's the same thing, and so is Facebook. My YouTube channel, I don't think I named it. I'm pretty sure you just have to look up Ceasar Brew, which is my first and last name, and you'll find me on YouTube there. But I have a bunch of videos if you guys are interested, from what the house looked like before, like how terrible it was, to what it is now, from like renovating my kitchen, the bathroom, putting in flooring. Like I did a bunch of work into it, so you guys can go ahead and look at that if you guys wanted to.
Yeah, I've definitely been seeing it around I'm over here crouching. I've been seeing it the last few years, like the renovations, and it's definitely dope. I didn't know you were doing it all by yourself. I mean, some videos you just say like I'm doing this, but then I always wonder, does he have help? Like, so the
No,
question
yeah,
has been answered.
yeah. So funny story, right? We closed, I want to say December 3rd, which was my son's birthday. And literally that weekend, after we celebrated my son's birthday, I forgot what we did because he turned 1. I called up my friend. He was like, bro, let's go like demo the kitchen on the third floor. He came with me. He was down. We demoed the whole kitchen. By the end of it, it probably took us like an hour, hour and a half. He The next day he called me. He's like, bro, I have a hernia. Like, I can't come help you today. I thought he was lying because I thought he just didn't want to help me anymore. Like, come to find out, like he actually did. He did
Oh,
have a hernia. I
man.
never told him that he was lying, but I was like, all right, well, don't worry, I'll just do it.
Now he knows.
So like I think like 2 weeks later, he's like, bro, I have to get surgery. Like I scheduled it out for like a month and a half or whatever. So like it ended up being real, but it was just funny to me that he just didn't. I thought he just didn't want to come help me the next day after he did that.
So he was
So
going
yeah,
hard at the demolition, like he was putting his whole.
yeah,
Yeah. Well, I hope he's better.
yeah. No, he's good now. But it was funny to think back on that. I was like, man, I haven't thought about that in a long time. But and also to be honest, I going back to what Gavin said in the beginning, like I I really didn't know how I was gonna get through it because I thought a lot of my friends were gonna help me, right? Some people said, "Oh yeah, like once you get it, I'll come and do this, I'll come and do that with you." Like, and then I'm trying to take them up on that offer, and nobody's coming to help me. So
You're
I
like,
can
oh.
count on my hand how many people actually came through for me when I needed them the most. So like those people, shout out to them. You guys know who you are if you're watching or eventually watch this. Like I thank you guys because they got me through some times that I couldn't do it. And there were times, man, like I remember like crying, like just sitting in the corner, like, what am I doing? It's 10 o'clock at night. Like I just don't know. And I'm driving home, I'm just like praying. Um, and to be honest, like leaning on God a lot. I don't know if anyone's religious or not, but I'm a
Mhm.
Christian, and man, He opened up so many opportunities for me because I just remember playing like God, like just help me find the right people to help me keep going, right? And the week started coming by, like man, I found the electrician that was gonna help me for like 10 times cheaper than the next guy. I figured out how to do this when I didn't know how to do it before. Like this doors just started opening when I just started leaning on him a little bit more. And I'm grateful for him. I'm grateful for my friends and everyone that was helping me to get through the tough time for sure.
That is a whole testimonial. That's what's up. Like, give it up to Jesus. Nah, but for
For
real,
sure.
all jokes aside, like that is awesome that you definitely found the community that was able to support you. And leading on God, like He can open doors that we never expect or don't know. So like you said, you didn't know how you were gonna get through it, but you managed to just have faith and do the work and face your fears. So that's what's up. So that's what's up. Gavin, do you have any other questions?
No, no, I don't. Thank you for the time today.
Yes,
Yeah, no
thank you.
problem. And I appreciate you guys for having me on here. This is actually the first interview I've ever done. No one's ever asked me to do anything. And not that like I'm like super special or anybody, but I thank you guys for giving me the opportunity to at least share my story for everyone else to hear.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for coming on because honestly, we wanted this podcast to just be regular people sharing their experience because I feel like when we watch these people that have like they're super gurus, super famous, we feel like, oh, we can't do it because there's something, whatever. But when we have everyday people that we interact with and we see that they've been able to have success in this, and it's like, oh, I know that person. I seen them at the grocery store. Like it becomes more real. You start to believe that you can do it too. So we just wanted to help people just have regular conversations with friends and just talk about real estate because we could learn a lot from each other instead of just hoarding all the information and feeling alone, like just creating a community where we could just share information and grow. At least that's my vision for this podcast. And, you know, people could just connect, network, and help each other out.
No, yeah, that's great. Honestly, I hope you guys keep going. I hope you guys like eventually, as long as you guys stay consistent, I'm sure it'll blow up and you get to where you want to be at, and you'll have as many people as you need to keep going.
That's the vision. That's the vision. Yeah. So we have a few things coming out. So we're excited. We are excited. But with that being said, thank you all for joining. You heard Caesar. He shared a lot of tips. He showed you where you can find him. We'll also have it coming up on the screen. So thank you guys. Hit the follow button, subscribe. Bye. Have a good day.
Take care, guys.